Hi everyone. Good evening. So it's 5 o'clock. So as we promised, we'll get started now. Um, so I'll be speaking in Hindi English mix. So अगर आपको in some question if you want me to switch language or explain something, let me know. So once again, good evening to everyone. Those of you who have joined, some of you have messaged here, so I can see your names. So hi to all of you, and we'll get started. Um, we had received some questions. So कुछ सवाल पिछले वीडियो में comments के थ्रू मिले थे. So I will take some of those questions. Many of those questions were कुछ सवाल ऐसे थे कि जो मेरे ख्याल से कई लोगों को होंगे. So they are sort of common to everyone. तो पहले उन सवालों को लेते हैं and then whatever other questions you have would be happy to answer. Right? So so let's get started. So okay. So एक जो one common question that you get is कई लोगों ने पूछा अलग अलग तरह से वो ये है कि syllabus is very vast, right? So how do you cover that? Um, and then there are questions around how to take notes and so on. So we'll talk about all those things. Right? There were certain questions on students if you are in class 11th and 12th. तो अभी से आप कैसे प्रिपेयर कर सकते हैं, नहीं कर सकते हैं, करना चाहिए, right? So all lot of those kind of questions. So let's first start with how to cover the material, and I'll be talking primarily substantially from my own experience. तो मैंने एग्जाम ऑब्वियसली बहुत साल पहले लिखा था, तो एग्जाम का पैटर्न थोड़ा अलग था. फिर भी यही ब्रॉडली यही प्रीलिम्स मेंस यही था, बट थोड़े से सिलेबस एंड द अप्रोच हैज चेंज्ड अ लिटिल बिट. So the first thing is okay, let's look at prelims and mains a little differently, right? So if you look at prelims, right? So I'll tell you my experience. So I finished. So this was way back 1995. So हमारा बीटेक जो है वो 30th अप्रैल को ख़त्म हुआ. सो आईआईटी कानपुर में बिल्कुल वहाँ पे शार्प डेट था, तो बिल्कुल उसी दिन. सो 1st of May we were sort of free, all exams were over, everything was done. And now we had about 1.5 2 months for the prelims exam. So in my batch, most people decided to not write the exam that year. They said कि हम exam अगले बार लिखेंगे, because they wanted to preserve the attempts. At that time, I believe 3 or 4 attempts हुआ करते थे. And I think only 2 or 3 of my classmates, only a few of us, wrote the exam that year. And the reason was obvious that the syllabus is very vast and it's very difficult to cover quickly. So in prelims, okay, मैं पहले prelims की बात कर रहा हूँ. By the way, one more thing, I live in Trivandrum, and today it is raining pretty heavily here. Right? So बीच में, I mean, अभी तक तो power supply है, but just in case if power goes off or something, so I offer my apologies. If that happens, this thing may get cut off, but hopefully it won't happen. Right? Okay, coming back to prelims. So prelims, I had pretty much like, give or take, about 2 months, maybe a little less. Right? And then obviously, the syllabus, the general studies itself is like a huge ocean, and I didn't know what to do. So it turned out that is actually a blessing in disguise. So what happened was, since I did not have time to go through all the stuff in detail, what I did was, in those days there used to be a book. There used to be, I think, publisher called Unique. So they had these thick study guides, with questions and just objective type questions and answers, and they would be covering history. So what I did was, I did not, first of all, I did not read any theory beyond what I had already done. So थोड़ा बहुत fourth year में during my BTech, I had gone through, I think, Bipin Chandra, the जो freedom, uh, independence struggle पे जो किताब है, so that I had sort of gone through, but again, not like fully, not very thoroughly. Polity, I was a little bit like, constitution, I had some idea, right? So I had read a little bit. So it's not like I started from zero, but very close to zero. Right? But I had some idea that about these two topics. Others, I pretty much like nothing. So what I did was just I took that book, and I would go through, I would go through the questions at a very fast pace. So look at the question, and then there are four answer options. So let's say they'll say, okay, in this era, like, who was the emperor, or, who issued this particular order, or whatever it might be. And then I would look at the four answer options and just think for, like, half a minute or something. Okay. And obviously I did not know the answer. So this was a learning process. I was not testing myself. I was learning. But how did I learn? I learned through Q&A. So अरे मैं question को देखिए, उसके बाद में जो answers है उनको on options देखिए. You think for, like, think for like a few seconds, half a minute, whatever, and then I don't know. So I'm looking at all the answer options. My brain is trying to, sort of guess, which is the right answer option, and then I would see the solution, or see the answer. Answer would be, let's say, answer option is C. Now I look at the answer option C and say, oh, okay, so this question, this is answer option. These three are sort of wrong, right? So I just try to absorb that, and I would have a piece of paper, pen and paper. Very quickly, I would scribble, like, okay, so this is Chandragupta Maurya. This is something. This is something. So essentially, what now I realize what I was doing is, first of all, when you're reading, when you're looking at questions and answers, it makes you think. Okay, so when you're reading a book, I'll tell you what happens. Let's say if I had spent the same time just reading books, what would have happened? आप किताब पढ़ोगे, you read something, थोड़ा दिमाग में घुसा, थोड़ा नहीं घुसा. So you have to put in a lot of effort. But when it's a question automatically challenges you. Your brain is automatically, it's firing, right? And I would just, so at that point the absorption was very, very fast. Now there is a problem here. You could say that, okay, I did just Q&A, so obviously I did not have very thorough coverage. So the questions, there could be many questions I would not have seen. It's possible, right? But I had only 1.5 to 2 months, and this is what I did. So read the question, look at the answer options. You don't know the answer option. Maybe try to guess. Okay, maybe it's option C. Then look at the answer, correct answer. Okay, it's C, fine. Or if it's not C, then why is it not C? Think for a minute, and then just on a paper, from your understanding, write down. Okay, for this one, this is, and I'm not writing clean notes. I'm just saying, just write it down for sake of, like, okay, this is the answer, right? So it'll sort of get embedded in your memory a little better. Now this technique, which I did not know then, is something called active recall. मतलब कि जो मैंने पढ़ा, whatever you studied right now, you are making your brain sort of, repeat this once, right? And when you're writing the notes, that is it goes through your head once, and you have some, it's not deep memory, but you have some memory, right? And then I would go to the next question, and then the unique guide had about between 5 and 10,000 questions. So there was no way you could have done all of them, and you could have done 5 times over. So ek baar jo kiya, and that's it. And then I went and wrote the exam with all of my other friends, and most of them were from senior batches. And I cleared the exam. I think I cleared comfortably, from what I can tell. In those days, marks were not given, so I don't know how much I scored, but I cleared that. So the lesson I have is, and this was prelims. So all of you who are writing the exam this year, here is a suggestion. Okay, suggestion which I want you to try. I am very sure it will work. Right now, the time is gone. I believe that there is not enough time to now open those thick books and read all of them, right? Whatever you've done till now, great, right? Now, just do lots of Q&A. So here's what I would ask you. Just try what I told you. Try for 15 days, and then take a mock test. I can assure you, you will see a meaningful improvement in your scores. How much? That depends on you. I can't predict that, right? But I believe that this technique will work very well, and this is based on scientific understanding of how learning works. We learn best when we are challenged. Let's see, if I tell you something, right? That right now the temperature in Trivandrum is at 29 degrees. You won't, but if I ask you, tell me what is the temperature in Trivandrum right now? You'll say, I don't know. I'll say 29. Now you'll remember that much better. Think about just simple change, right? I asked you a question. You're thinking, okay, I don't know, and then I give you the answer. Now you'll remember that much better than my telling you something, right? That is why going through questions and answers makes a huge difference. Okay, so this is sort of like, a quick, very high level summary of, how I handled the prelims exam. Now you have another paper, which is civil services aptitude test, and there are They also have reading comprehension, etc. I will not get into the detail, but I will share a separate video with you on this. Okay, how to do reading comprehension questions. If I don't, just please remind me. Somebody put a comment. I'll definitely within a day or two I'll put a video out. It will make it very fast. You'll be able to answer those RC questions very quickly. And this will be, remember, we think that if you become a civil servant, that's the last exam you'll write in your life. That may not be the case. I mean, I wrote civil services. After that, I quit, and then I wrote the GMAT exam. Then I've written, then during my MBA, I wrote a bunch of exams. So, हमारा जो learning process है, वो जिंदगी में रुकना नहीं चाहिए. Our learning should never stop, which means the learning skills that we acquire. And this, I'm not telling theory. I'm telling you from my own life experiences. The learning skills that we acquire, that is the only gold that we have. That is our real wealth. हमारी जो धन दौलत है, वो है हमारी सीखने की शक्ति, सीखने का हमारे मन में जो डिजायर है, जो फायर है कि हमें सीखना है. that's real wealth. और ये मैं थ्योरी नहीं बता रहा हूँ, ये मैं आपको अपने लाइफ से, मैं आपको एक्सपीरियंस आपसे शेयर कर रहा हूँ. तो मैंने तो कई एग्जाम लिखे हैं, और एग्जाम लिखने के बाद में आपको फिर 5 साल बाद, 10 साल बाद, यू वांट टू डू समथिंग एल्स. पर अगर आपके पास में वो सीखने की ताकत हो और डिजायर हो, तो आप you can do whatever you want. Right? So this was about the prelims exam, the first paper. Right now, just do Q&A. I'll repeat for everyone. Okay, look at the question, 4 answer options. Think, what do you think? What do you think would be the right answer? Okay, maybe it's C. Check the answer. Okay, if it was C, great. If it was not C, why was it not C? What is the answer option? And then then remove the book, and just on a paper write from understanding. That's all you have to do. And do this. You will do. You just do for 15 days. Trust me on this. And if you benefit, or if you don't benefit, share with me. I would like to learn from your experience. Right? On the other paper, as I said, reading comprehension, those kind of things, anyway, that paper, you just have to clear the minimum thing. I'm sure you'll be able to do that. Just, it's a lot of practice. So we'll not spend time on that. So this is sort of like, broad technique for prelims. Any questions that you have, obviously you can keep asking. I'll try to take those questions. Right? Okay, now we'll talk about a lot of other things, which is, the vast syllabus, right? So how should you cover? I'll again simplify it for you. Okay, one question somebody asks is, what was your optional subjects? So when I wrote the exam, we used to have 2 optionals. So I chose maths and physics, which is pretty much what everybody used to choose at IIT. Maths and physics, or maths. Some people had maths and public administration, but maths was sort of, हर एक आदमी तो लेता ही था आईआईटी में, तो मैंने भी मैथ्स लिया था, and then I took physics. It was again a good subject, not that scoring as maths, but still good, and it was my favorite subject. So okay, so now we will go through questions one by one. Okay, next question, let me take from here right now. Suhas has asked a question, how to make notes. This is a very important question, right? Let me address this now. I'll tell you the wrong way to take notes. And this applies to even school children. It applies to you guys. It applies to me. Like anybody who's trying to learn. Okay, let's just go back to how we learn. The way we learn is just the way we learn is when we force our brain to recall something. Okay. That's when our understanding becomes deep, right? So a lot of us, when we take notes, what we do is we look at the book and then take the important points learning. Now, from what I understand, there are many, like Vision 360, Vision के IAS उनके documents. There's a lot of material available कि आपको synthesized, summarized material बाद में revise करने को मिल जाएगा. तो मेरे हिसाब से most of the time, देखिए आपका अगर optional subject है उसमें आप prepare करना चाहें, that is fine. But most of the time जो आप notes ले रहे हैं, the purpose of notes should be to improve your learning and not just think about it as a revision tool. So how do you take notes? Read a paragraph. But let's say you're reading history. Okay, maybe you love the subject, maybe you don't love the subject, doesn't matter. You read a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. Okay, 1 or 2 paragraphs, and after that you stop. Then summarize it in your own words in a notebook. Don't copy from there. Okay. So so Dandi March was on this date. The objective was this. It was not so whatever were the key points, you have to you have to write it down in from your understanding. Very often I'll tell you what happens. आप लोग 6-6 घंटे 8-8 घंटे 10-10 12-12 14 से 14 घंटे every day you if you're studying full day you'll be reading a lot. I used to do that, morning you get up, till late night you keep studying. After some time you're looking at the book, your eyes are just rolling over, you're reading, the pages are getting over, but you're not absorbing anything. This is the most common problem. This has to be stopped. If you don't stop this, you are just wasting your time. Then you might as well not study. And the way to stop it is, trust me, this will work 100%. My guarantee, it will work. Okay, read a paragraph or two paragraphs and then summarize it in a few sentences in a book. Then read the next one. It may look like you're spending more time. You're not, because your learning is so much more effective. And the notes that you're taking, these will not be very detailed notes, but you can sort of read them when you revise. You can kind of go through them again. So this is one thing that I want to tell you. Second thing, which may not be practical if you have if you have less amount of time, but if you have a lot of time, मान लीजिए आप अगले एक साल, अब इस साल एग्जाम नहीं लिख रहे हो, you are writing next year and you have sufficient time, then there is something called spaced repetition. I'll just type it here. Spaced repetition. The idea of spaced repetition is that, let's say आपने अभी कुछ पढ़ा, ठीक है? You studied something today. How long it will stay in your head? Maybe like a couple of days. But after a couple of days, depending on how well you learn, after a couple of days, it will start fading off. The memory will start fading off. When it starts fading off, right, that is the time when you should do the next revision. So first time, let's say it fades off in say 3 days, 5 days, whatever. So after, let's say, a week, you just do a quick revision. You can go through the notes that you do, very short notes, and just try to recall. And at that time, the second time when you memorize, then it will stay in your memory for a couple of weeks, right? And then you should do another revision when it again starts fading off. So the idea is, let's say I've learned something today. Now tomorrow morning, get up and read it again. Is it useful? Actually, not very useful. Don't if you read something today, don't do it tomorrow, right? You wait for let's say a couple of days, wait for the memory to fade a little bit, and then you learn, right? So what you can do is, you can have, agar aap chahe to, you can have, let's say, a box where you keep some cards. So topics you have studied today, let's say you write the name and you keep the topic. Let's say you have dates. Okay, this one has to be revised on this date. So you put the card there. That day you take it up and very quickly revise it. Again, this requires some time. So it depends upon how much time you have, etc. So spaced repetition, give it some time. Give it some time so you forget a little bit and then read again. Okay, don't read next day. It's a waste of time. Okay, this is the key. Agar aapne 2 revision kar liya, right, you are like solid, right? But again, as I said, it's not always possible. It depends upon your time, etc. Next is so this is how you take notes. Next is in terms of referring to books. I believe, in fact, I don't know if you've heard of Srivatsa Krishnan. He was a topper, 1995, I think, IAS topper. In his interview also, he had said something similar, that, in those days, he said that covering the whole syllabus is a disaster. You cannot cover the whole thing. If you're covering more than 50%, it's a disaster. Today, things may have changed, but my belief is that at least stick to one major book for everything. There is no reason to have multiple books and you go through one book and second book and so on. In fact, I've spoken to a couple of my friends also. They also believe the same thing. Choose one book. In fact, when we prepared at IIT, I'll tell you the biggest advantage we had, which is not about IIT. Okay, the advantage was that many of our seniors had cleared the exams before us. So I wrote in 95. So 91, 92, 93, 94, every year the top rankers, some of them used to be from IIT Kanpur, and they knew how to prepare. Most importantly, they knew how to not prepare. So what material to not read, what to exclude, what to not spend time on. That is important, right? So what I would say is, pick one book. Just look around, do some research, pick one book, stick to that book, right? That will make your job so much easier. Now you just have one book. You can read it, take notes, like do it multiple times. Otherwise, you'll be chasing like 5 books, same material, say it'll be just it's repetitive, and most of your time will just go waste, right? So this is one thing that I would like to mention. I'll also take some questions. So the question from Ashish Ranjan. Hi Ashish. How important is reading newspaper and preparing notes for current affairs? So reading newspapers is obviously extremely important. In fact, there's one big change that we have from when I wrote the exam, which was like way back, and today is that current affairs has become, I think, much more important, much more important than it was in our time. In fact, when you are writing answers, and some of you have asked that question, how to write better answers. See, you and I, just think about it logically. You and I are reading from the same book. Okay, you are reading the same points. I am reading the same points, and we are competing together. When we go and write the same answer, do we have an advantage against each other? No. So then we need to bring in something. So if you want to compete, you have to bring in something which I'm not able to bring in. Now trust me, people write. I mean, many of us, end up writing exam for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. If you're writing the exam for 2, 3, 4 years, there is enough time. You have gone through all the material over and over again, right? At that point, all our answers are based on the same material. So there has to be some difference, some delta. Where will that difference come from? That will come from current affairs and our ability to mix and match things. So let's say if you're talking about recession, talking about economy, link it to some studies, link it to some recent events, link it to some certain incident that you have seen, right? And that is why when you are reading newspapers, उस समय आप जो भी पढ़ रहे हो उसमें आप देखो कि अच्छा ये पॉइंट है, where could this point be related to? Okay, so this point could be, this is an issue which could be relevant to an ethics question. So as an example, I'll give you a live example. In fact, there's a video I'm going to release soon. So let us say in the US, uh, corona crisis की वजह से there is a ship in which the ship is called USS Theodore Roosevelt. 100 more than 100 sailors have contracted corona, and the captain wrote to his bosses requesting कि वो ship को relieve किया जाए. अब this is a huge ship. There are like 4,000 sailors. It's an aircraft carrier. Right? It's almost like a small town. Right? And when he sent that letter, the Navy authorities didn't like it, and they removed him. Right? Now this incident, right? You can. This is a very interesting ethics case. In fact, I have shared. You'll see a video very soon on this. So this is an interesting ethics case. So now, when you see examples like this, right, you should remember and think about, how can I use this in a certain scenario. You read an incident that this minister shouted at at an IS officer for not doing his job properly. Think about that. What is the angle there? Right? If let's say is a senior allowed to shout at a subordinate? Is it right? Is it wrong? In what circumstances? So I'm saying you have to think about, when you're reading newspapers, think about, like, you are looking for clues. You're not just looking. It's reading newspapers or even online news. It's not just to see what happened. That's not it, right? It is to see, oh, I'm looking for raw material. Imagine you're a cook. You're cooking in kitchen, and you're looking in the garden. Oh, iska mein, I can make the chutney here. I can use this for vegetable. I can. So you are collecting raw material. That is the mindset you require, and only then the questions, the answers. See, you are writing an answer. The guy who's reading the answer, the examiner, he is reading paper, one paper, two paper, three. He is being paid on every paper, so he has to read lots of papers. He is also bored. He's like, okay, every question that comes, what does he do? Human mindset. I can guarantee what they do is they'll have some average. Okay, average answer, 3 number दे दो, 4 number दे दो. वो देते रहेंगे. Then something which stands out. Oh, this is different. Okay, so then they'll say, oh, fine, let me give like 6 marks. That's what happens. I will give you another another example. Okay, so when I was in McKinsey, one day our HR called me, and they said, "Okay, we have some resumes. Can you please filter and give us like 10 resumes for interview?" And this was in New York, and the resumes that came, these were like from people, again, MBA students, and these were from the world's top MBA programs. All these guys were from Columbia, Harvard, Stanford, Chicago, like all the top business schools. When the resumes came and I was looking at it, after 5 minutes, they all look the same. Everyone is like, top performer, top 1%, top 5%, this medal, that scholarship. Finally, I got fed up. I had to give 10. I said, you know what, like, let me give some 10, because they all look the same. Same thing happens with your answers. They all look the same, right? So the answer which looks different, it should be refreshing, something new, something different. Then the guy will say, "Acha, theek hai, chalo, ye banda badhiya hai." Isko, like, 6 marks, right? Instead of 4 or 5, whatever. I'm just making it up, right? So that is it. So Ashish, I don't know if I answered your question. So uh, this is, I think, a very, very, very important point, right? Um, Now, let me just refer to a couple of other questions. One was how you prepare for UPSC mains after clearing prelims. Okay, so the day the prelims got over, first thing is, please don't wait for result. Assume that you got in. I also assumed, and then here. Okay, I'll give you a couple of techniques. One is, you are going to be studying long hours. So we used to get up in the morning, I think, have breakfast, like whatever, like 9 o'clock, whatever. Then we sit and study till lunch, take a break, study till evening, dinner, again study till, like, night, like whatever time. I don't remember. It must have been 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever, some random time. And you read the whole day. Now, here are a couple of things. First, and isko thodi dhyan se suniye, right? This is going to actually make a difference. If you have to run, let us say, 10 kilometers, there are two ways to run. Okay. One is, you start running 10 kilometers, you run non-stop. Okay. Other is, you could say, okay, let me run for 1 kilometer at a high pace. I sprint for, say, a kilometer. Then I'll walk for like 200 meters, 300 meters. Then you again run. Now, in running, both techniques are fine. Most people will actually use the first technique. When it comes to studies, do not use the first technique. Do not study for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours non-stop. That's wrong. It's a waste of time. Okay. So what should you do? So you should make it like a sprint and a short break, and a sprint and a short break. Why is that? Because our brain, it saturates very quickly. Again, if you have built the reading stamina, some people can study for even an hour, and depends on material. Sometimes, the stuff you're reading is so interesting. You read like a very gripping novel. There, this what I'm saying doesn't apply, because your mind is looking for, okay, what happens next? What happens next? There, even 3 hours you can absorb. But when you're reading economy, polity, geography, and all that stuff, right? It's your mind is not really looking for, that kind of information, right? It should, but it's not. So then what you do is, first, okay, there is a technique called Pomodoro technique. Let me just write it down here. Pomodoro technique. Very simple idea, and I'll tell you how to take the break, etc. So it's the Pomodoro technique is 25 minutes study. I'll repeat: 25 minutes study, 5 minutes break. 25 minutes study, 5 minutes break, and one session. So it's basically a 30-minute session. We can call it one Pomodoro. So after 2 or 3, you take a long 15 minutes break. In between, you have a smartphone. Your friend wants to call you, or you suddenly think, oh, I need to check, that news, or I forgot to. Whatever happens during that 25 minutes, this is the key. I'll say it slowly because this is very, very critical. Okay. During that 25 minutes, you have decided, okay, I'm going to read this. You are not allowed to go and do something else, even if it is very useful. Suddenly remember, oh, I have not checked that answer, or I've not done this thing. Have a piece of paper, write it down. You'll do it in that 5 minutes break, not now. Okay. If you can do this, right? If you can do a 25-minute, and this 5 minutes break, you can make it 7 minutes, 10. That's up to you, right? But do not study for like 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours nonstop. 1 hour, some people might push it, but after that, it's a declining curve. This sounds like a simple technique, silly technique. I can assure you, right? This will make a difference, because a lot of the time we are sitting in front of a book. I do it, by the way. I'm telling you, sometimes, and if I'm not careful, I end up doing it. Read something, I realize, okay, it's been an hour. Maybe I'm not absorbing. I should have stopped. Right? So this is something that I would like all of you to remember. Okay. And with that, okay, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing I forgot. Rotate subject. This is something that I used to do even for IIT JEE. So different people have different threshold. I get bored with one thing very quickly, so I want some change. Right? But when I change it, I find it exciting. So I remember for IITJ preparation, I would do physics immediately, like, no, well, not immediately, like after 1 hour, right? My mind will say, no, I should, like, check out that circles chapter. When I go to this, okay, let me do chemistry. So I'm not saying, like, keep changing it, but during one day, don't study one subject for 12 hours. Seriously, do not do that. Waste of time. Eh? Well, not waste of time, but it's not very efficient. Your brain will just saturate. Okay, so what do? So you do subject one, do a couple of pomodoros, maybe like 2, 3, 4, whatever. Take a break, enjoy, like, walk around, meditate. Meditation can really help. Then go to next subject. You keep changing your subjects. One other thing, right? And this something you have to love the subject. You have to convince yourself that this is interesting. If you keep thinking, yaar, exam ke liye karna hai, kya bakwas hai, what nonsense, right? That won't work, right? If our mind says, see, everything is interesting, let me tell you one thing. When you become an IAS officer, you become an IPS officer, the work, do you think everything is going to be exciting? No, it's like normal life. There'll be some things which are interesting. A lot of stuff is just, file work. When I was a commissioner of police in Trivandrum city, my file work was so much. I'm not even joking. On Sunday when I used to come home, I would have maybe like sometimes 3, 4 bundles and bundles of files. My policeman would carry it into my drawing room. That's life. Get used to it, right? So we have to make sure that we love those subjects, and if we can do that, then your focus and motivation would be so much higher, right? Now, let me just recap the key things I said. So vast syllabus, that is true, but exclude lot of books. Throw all the books out. Keep 1 or 2 books each, right? And do that. Second, current affairs, like really, 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 really important. And when you look at current affairs, think about, like, इसको कहाँ पे इसका relevance हो सकता है, कहाँ पे इसका application हो सकता है, right? So that is what I wanted to think about. And then, of course, people have asked questions on about Hindu reading Hindu newspapers, etc. Absolutely, it's a must. हमारे time में भी Hindu था, but I think now it has become a lot more important. We also had a magazine in those days called Frontline. Now it's not. It's not apparently very popular. हमारा जो international events था, we used to completely go with Frontline, which used to have exhaustive coverage. So you can refer to that. You can Hindu, and how to take notes with Hindu, again, same thing. By the way, one of my friends I spoke to, he was suggesting that take notes now that you have computers, take notes digitally. So write it down, and again, your choice. You can write it on Google Docs or find any mechanism. Please do not store. Okay, one more thing. Please don't store anything. I know this silly advice. I should not be wasting your time on this, but do not write on a hard drive in a computer and then the computer crashes, then you have lost, right? So please, for God's sake, store everything in Google Drive, Google Docs, or Evernote, or Dropbox, or whatever you want. Please make sure you don't. The last thing you want is to lose data. Okay, that should not happen, right? Okay, so now next question. Let's see what other questions. Yeah, one more thing. One question was, how do you write good quality answers? In fact, I would also spin one more question. One of you, somebody asked a question that um, it's my third attempt. अब already आपने पुरानी पुरानी चीजें काफी पढ़ ली हैं. Now it's the second attempt, maybe third, maybe like fourth attempt. So the question is now, what new do you do? Right? I mean, already you have read a lot of the stuff. You already know that. So what is the additional thing that I think the additional thing that you can bring in is how you bring in the insight from current affairs. So let's say basic information you have. Now you say, okay, if somebody asks a question on this, on planning, on corona, the impact of corona on this thing, lockdown, why does lockdown work? Why does lockdown not work? Impact of lockdown on the economy, impact of lockdown on this particular sector, how to recover from this, so I'm saying, think like, a questioner, right? So ask questions, and you can bring in those elements. That is where the magic will happen. So if you are attempting second or third time, I'm answering one of the questions, which is that what do I do now? I'm already bored. I understand you're bored, right? First of all, forget the fact that you're bored. I mean, that you have to get used to. Second thing is, bring in this. See, कहाँ से किस current affairs से किस event से how to connect 2 or 3 different things to give a different, unique answer. That answer, the answer that you write, it has to be different from the answer that I write. Okay, so it has to be something which is cooked in your brain, and when the examiner sees that answer, he'll feel relief. Oh wow, that's interesting. So that is something that that only you can do. So those are the areas where your notes are important. Other places, the common stuff जो है वो तो आप कहीं से notes ले सकते हैं, but how to connect different things, those notes you have to take. Some people have asked question like, like Lakshmi Khan, the book is very voluminous, moti kitab hai, how to finish that. Now, if you have decided to write UPSC, moti patli kitab se kya darna? Like, you have to do that, just do it. Don't worry about, you have time. I know it's a lot of material. Let's go through this. One more question was, how do you remember all this? Which is a fair question. Even if you look at the summary itself, the summary of any 40-page, 50-page document, that's got so much information. How do we remember all that? I mean, our brain is, it has got limitations, right? So my answer to that is, I'll give you the learning techniques very quickly. In fact, I've already mentioned. First thing is, whenever you're reading something, take notes using what we call active. What I explained to you, using active recall. Read something, think, and write it in your own words. Don't have to write elaborately, right? This is not to read this later. Obviously you can do that, but this is to make sure that you've remembered. One more technique which works well, by the way, we didn't know that. Now I know that it's called Feynman technique. But if you can teach whatever you're learning, if you can teach it to somebody. Now, we were studying with a group of friends, but of course, even then we used to do solo study. But in IIT, there were about 15, 20 of us, studying together, and you can see the power of like, motivation and studying together. All of us, from what I remember, हमारे साथ में जो IIT में हमारा gang था, all of us pretty much made into IAS or IPS. Almost every one of us. I don't remember anybody who did not make it. Right? So this is again a combination of like having the right material and the right approach, and we sort of helped each other. So having a group, or having at least one or two people together who help each other, that is very, 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 very important. And there you can, let's say I studied today, शाम को मिलते हैं, ठीक है, चलो आधे घंटे, एक घंटे. Now whatever you have learned, you explain to me, you teach me, right? What I studied in geography or history, I'm going to teach you. Now, if you cannot do that, it's almost like a revision, but you are, in your mind, you're teaching somebody, you can go through the whole thing. So let's say you finish a study session and you keep some time. In this time, I'm going to teach the whole material quickly to somebody else. You can just sit and, talk to yourself, talk to the mirror, whatever. This may or may not be always possible. If you don't have time, you may not be able to do this. If you have time, you should do this. But I have found this to be incredibly effective. Right? So this was one of the questions about how to navigate the vast syllabus and how to remember all this. So this is how you remember stuff. Active notes, Feynman technique, like teach somebody if possible. And third is spaced repetition. Read it again when you are forgetting it, right? And then repeat that to the extent possible. Right? Okay, next question. Let me just see what were the. Okay, some of you are college students. Okay, there's one question which is, you are in college right now or in school. Should you prepare? Answer is yes and no. I'll tell you why yes and what way yes and what way no. First thing is, you are in college right now. I've seen this, a lot of students who are in abhi engineering kar rahe hain. So they're saying, no, I don't like engineering. I'm going to sit and study for civil services. Broadly speaking, a bad idea. Broadly, right? Why is it a bad idea? First is, right now you're there to study civil engineering or chemical engineering or electrical engineering. Learn that, right? इसके लिए civil skill आपको बाद में time मिलेगा, right? You can read a few topics that you're interested in, but don't miss out on your current phase of life. Number one. Number two, when you're reading or learning stuff, if you're not doing it thoroughly, आपने हल्का फुल्का पढ़ लिया है, right? It is not going to help. You need to be thorough in that. Now, if you have already read something, remember when we read something for the first time, you are excited. Second, third time, you feel like, क्या यार वही चीज दोबारा आ रही है, again same thing. So if you have done something half baked, आधा किया है या आधा पूरा किया, बहुत बढ़िया से नहीं किया है. First of all, you've not understood fully. Second, when you, after graduation, when you start studying, you will not be very curious and enthusiastic about it. Right? So studying the core subjects, generally speaking, it's not very important. But I'll tell you what is very important. Very important is knowing what's happening in the world around you, having a point of view. Right? अब मान लीजिए कोरोना हो रहा है. Right? So everybody knows, yeah, corona is a big crisis, it's very infectious. Yeah, that's fine. Everybody knows, right? You need the next level of insight. Next level of insight could be, okay, chalo, corona bahut phailta hai, that's fine. But then, why did it spread more in some countries than other? What is the mortality rate? Why is the mortality rate in Germany different from the mortality rate in Italy? Right? Does it, the data that you're getting, what is the difference between the Chinese data and the American data? Right? Why is the Chinese mortality rate like 2.5%? Is that number correct or not? How is the number being calculated? Right? What are the problems? Like, when, if let's say, if you have a flat curve versus if you have a sudden spike, what are the differences? If you have sudden spike, for the same everything else, you could have higher mortality because you run out of ventilators, right? But then, how do you solve that problem, right? Like in US, what the government is doing is, the federal government is saying, okay, we'll keep ventilators here. Whoever requires, you tell me, we'll ship it to you, right? Does it work? Does it not work? Right? So there are a lot of these kind of, I'm just giving an example, there are a lot of these kind of questions. So thinking through those questions, having a point of view, right? That is something that even as a school student, college student, you can start developing. Sit with your friends and debate, discuss. So I wasted a lot of my time in IIT, but one good thing also came out of it. Well, not out of wasting, but one good thing it is, we should discuss a lot of these questions. When you discuss, debate, you sharpen your skills. You figure out how to make an argument. In fact, a lot of the exam questions require that, right? They will be like, इस चीज पे टिप्पणी कीजिए. अब टिप्पणी मतलब, you can just try, but then if you can bring in some insight there, and if you have been debating, discussing, talking, it'll help you quickly say, okay, इस topic पे इसको हम कैसे, how do you present it in a manner which is interesting and something new can be injected. Okay. Otherwise, I would say, don't worry about preparing for civil services while in college, except for things that I told you about. Okay. What else? Let me just go through some of the questions that you have. NCRT. Look, if you are in college and you have the NCRT books, the class 11th to 12th NCRT for history, geography, economics, etc., you can go through them. There is no harm, right? But be prepared that when you start preparing, you will probably have to, kind of do a lot more than that. Daily timetable and all that. It's very hard for me to suggest what a timetable should be. As I said, instead of a timetable, तो मैं सजेस्ट करूंगा उसको आप ऐसे सोचिए कि आपका जो स्टडी टेक्निक है वो सही कर लीजिए. You study in half an hour intervals with breaks. Those are things that are more important. And timetable, all that, you figure it out. You can make it on a daily, weekly basis. That's up to you. Right? Let me look at other questions that we had. I'm just looking at the previous, then I'll come to the current questions today. Okay, how to stay motivated to study regularly? Okay, this is a good question. Okay, so by the way, some questions here also coming. I'll try to address as many as I can. So one question is, what rank did you have? So my rank was 72. What else? Okay, no other. Okay, so now coming back to the previous question, which is, how do you stay motivated? I never faced that problem too much, but I'm not saying that problem. If you prepare for 3-4 years, there will be moments of ups and downs. First thing is, I would say, make learning and reading a habit, in the sense that you are not, see, you have lunch and dinner and breakfast. You don't need motivation for that. खाने का time हो गया. You just go and just eat it, right? Similarly, you have to make it a habit. Motivation से नहीं पढ़ते हैं. Motivation तो, that is not the way to study. You study because you have to study. Like करना है, so that habit you have to build. कि एक बार जो ठान लिया है, you have to do something. Then once you take a decision, uske baad you keep doing it, right? So that mental attitude, we have to build. In fact, most of you, many of you are part of the program. I run a program I started actually just 2 weeks back, called 30 Days of 5 a.m. So I'm building a routine where I get up every day, and morning I get up at 4:30, 4:45, and 5 o'clock. We start a routine. And there also the idea is what? Idea is to build this habit. कि, जो ठान लिया है उसको करना है. Like, then you don't think, why, how, whatever. That's not the point. Right? So motivation होगा नहीं होगा, that goes on here. Who cares about motivation? जो करना है वो करना है, right? So let us build that habit. आप जानबूझ के do difficult things. एक topic difficult लग रहा है, ठीक है, I'll study that today. Like, I'll spend half a day on that. So what, right? So that I think more than which topic, which subject, which book, that that thing matters. Once you decide something, you're not going to then back off and ask questions. Right? Um, Let me just read. Many questions are coming. Does meditation help for long-term memory? I believe it helps. I believe it helps a lot. But remember, meditation takes time, so don't expect magical results. But I believe it helps a lot. Then you make videos on various things. How do you manage your work? It's hard. I also struggle. I mean, I'm sure you struggle. I struggle. We all struggle. But अब जिंदगी में जो करना है वो करना है. I mean, you can't. How to create a flow in essay? Interesting question. Again, I will not be discussing essay in detail, right? Um, the way to create a flow is, the flow will come in the essay when there is a flow in our thought, right? So whatever is the topic, right? So first figure out, think of it like, you are a film script writer, right? तो दिमाग में बेसिक स्क्रिप्ट बना लीजिए. फिल्मों में क्या होता है, दे द सेम कोई कट स्टोरी, हीरो हीरोइन, विलेन, ये हो गया वो हो गया, दे हैव द ड्रामा, राइट? So you also need to have a script in your head. So let's say, I don't know, whatever is, I won't speculate in topic, but if you say take some topic, think about how story क्या है, उसमें कहाँ पे, जैसे फिल्म में एक विलेन आ जाता है बीच में कभी कभी, no always. So here, where is the wrinkle in the story? Like, uh, what is the challenge that they faced? So you have to bring out some of those nuances, right? And that story very quickly put something in your head, and then if that story flows, your essay will definitely flow. Right? Let me just go and just see. One question is how to clear UPSC exam in first attempt. Okay, so here's my take on that, and this is important. Result you don't control. What do you control? You control effort. You control your attitude, your determination. Result depends upon so many other factors. Leave it to those factors. If you believe in God, leave it to God. But you do your best. The reason it's important is, if we don't have that attitude, sometimes things will go our way, sometimes things will not go our way, and we will then blame ourselves, and next time will be demotivated and so on. So whatever things I said, you those and other things that make sense, you do it well, right? And hope for the best, right? Result first attempt में आएगा, second में आएगा, that you don't control. Don't worry about that. But you control something. You control whether you are focused and putting in effort. Are you doing it the right way? Are you taking notes properly? Right? You're not just for the formality के तौर पे पढ़ रहे हैं, वो तो नहीं हो रहा है. Those things you ensure. Rest, leave it to chance. Um, Let me just, lot of questions. Sir, how do you make those? Okay, so one question. Now I'll move a little bit from, because we're running out of time. We have only 10 minutes left. One question is, who should prepare for civil services? I mean, look, I have left the services, so I think it's a fair question to ask. Right? Is it a good career? It's not a good career. Here is my take on it. Right. So there are two things when you say who should prepare. One is the service right for you? Second is, are you right for the service? I believe the service offers certain incredible opportunities. Okay, there are many things that people see, right? वो जो क्या कहते हैं, जो what is the word for that, status and uh, comforts and गाड़ी and gunmen, security guards and ये वो जो drama, all that is fine, ठीक है, right? But the thing that I think is very, very valuable is the kind of responsibility that you get at the age of 25, 26, 27, 28. I think that is incredible. Right? I mean, today, let us say, if you're in a field district, if you're running a district administration, district police, or whatever, as an IS officer, your your actions are impacting lives of literally at least 20, 30 lakh people in your district minimum, right? And it's real impact, right? And in these kind of occasions, when you do certain right things, you can actually make some temporary meaningful difference. So in that respect, I think it's an incredible job. However, one thing I want you to know, a lot of people ask the question, like, can we go and change this whole thing? Can we change the system? You should try, but it's different. It's difficult, right? So don't. Here's what I'm going to ask you. Um, you can make an impact for sure, 100%. But that impact will be local, and it will be while you are there, and it will be to some extent. If you're thinking that you will change the system, not that you should not try, but that is very, very hard. Second thing is a lot of time in most of these jobs, especially in the IAS, as you become senior, a lot of time is spent on paperwork. In fact, I would say every department, right? Paperwork, wo jo routine work hai. So the time you get to actually do something different, that is very, very, very limited, right? A lot of people talk about political interference. um, it is a problem. um, I did not face it much, but I was just lucky, we had a very good chief minister. In most states, I think it's a big problem. Most governments, um, to varying degrees, most governments are corrupt. Many officers, I don't know many, but some officers I'm told are also corrupt. Where I live in and where I worked in Kerala, corruption is much, much, much less. eh? So fortunately, हम लोगों को उतना नहीं देखना पड़ा, but यहाँ भी है, here also it's there, but I'm told that it is lot more in other places. Um, so here's what I'll say: if you if you don't if you're not hung up on money, see, a lot of people, what happens, they join the service, and then they also want like a very fancy lifestyle, luxury. So you have to make a choice, like right now. If you join the service, give up on the idea that you'll have a comfortable life, but you'll not have a luxurious life. That idea you have to discard. Now, many people will say, "Oh, that's all theory. It's all nonsense. कहने की बात है, corruption है." Look, it's up to you. Right? I'm not saying that people are not corrupt, and I cannot persuade anyone to be honest or corrupt. But I don't think it's unnecessary. Like, if somebody is smart enough to become an IAS officer, he's smart enough to get a good job in private sector and make money in a positive, in the right way. And that is not, I don't think that's the right goal, right? Money is important, of course, but government pays you, and within those, if let's say husband wife both are working, it's quite comfortable. So is it a great job? I think it's a great job. But it's a perfect job? No, it's not perfect. Why did I leave it? I worked for 8 years. I saw the best the service had to offer, and beyond that, it wasn't exciting me. So that is the short answer. Long answer, I'll make a long video and share with you. Um, okay, one more thing. Should everybody write the exam? So here's the thing. Two things. One, it's a tough exam. You know that. Right? Now, it does not mean that you have to be necessarily a school or college topper or a gold medalist to make it. There are many examples I have seen of people who were exceptional, even IITs. I have seen people in top 100 rank, top 200, top performers in IIT. They could not get into civil services. Why? I have no idea. And I have seen people who did not perform well, not just in IITs, even elsewhere, they have gotten in. Maybe this was what motivated them. They were not motivated in college. So there are various reasons. So it's very hard to say who should write, who should not write. That's your personal decision. But remember, know the odds, which means know how many seats and how many candidates, you know the ratio. Now, if you're going to fight against that, then you have to, like, go with a machine gun blazing, right? ये नहीं कि आधा पूरा किया नहीं, then you go all out. Right? Second thing is the other thing which I would ask is, think about this way. Many things that you learn during the exam preparation, some of those things may not be useful, but a lot of things that you learn they'll give you a new perspective. I mean, you'll many things about the world, about history, about geography, about so many things you wouldn't know, current affairs, right? So I believe that it'll give you a lot of understanding of the world around us, right? And I believe that is valuable independent of whether you join the civil services or not. Obviously, your goal is to join the civil services, but I'm saying beyond that also there are there are a lot of benefits. So just know that this effort, you should know this effort will not go waste. Whatever you put in, it'll lead to definitely some benefits, but be aware that it is a low probability game. That thing you have to be aware of. Right? Then what else? Let me just look at what are other questions. Meditation has a proper time. You can do it anytime. In fact, you can do it multiple times. Let's say you're studying since morning. It's 5 o'clock. You're now getting brain is very heavy. You're not able to absorb. Trust me on this. Take my promise. Meditate for half an hour. Okay. How to meditate? I'll make a separate video. You can please watch that. Right. Right now we're running out of time. Meditate for half an hour. Just see what happens. Your brain it'll be fresh, almost like in the morning. You can learn a lot more, right? So meditation, it helps a lot. So please use it as much as you can, as much as you feel necessary. It'll benefit you. Let me just read other questions. Yojana magazine, yep, absolutely. In our times we used to read that. It's a great. Okay, one from Sushant. There's Sushant. I made daily targets. I get demotivated when I see the entire syllabus. I don't follow it. Any suggestion? Cut down on the daily targets, right? And focus less on target, more on. Okay, let me put it this way. This happens to you. It happens to me also, by the way, right? You put a daily target, and whether you're achieving that or not, try something different. Say, instead of saying I will finish these 2 chapters, say I am going to study today for 2 hours. I'm going to study this chapter. So make it as an input as opposed to the output. Input is what you control. Now, if you have studied for 2 hours, you have achieved your target, so you don't feel bad. But if you say I'll finish those 2 chapters, it may happen, may not happen. So maybe that's one way to think about it. And you'll probably try it, and please share your feedback with me. I would love to hear from you. Okay. What else? Strategy for those who are already in government job. I mean, like, government jobs in the evening, you have a lot of time. So just, you cannot study full time, but use the time that you have, Saturdays, Sundays. Right? Okay, are you fit for the services? As I said, if you're looking for a life of glamour or like luxury, this is not the right job. Right. Second thing is, if somebody wants a lot of freedom, right, especially in the police, I mean, it's very regimented. So ऐसा नहीं कि आपको freedom है कि चलो आज office नहीं मन किया नहीं गए. No, you can't do that. Right? You're almost like you're in an army, and you have to do things. And some days you like it, some days you don't like it. You will get a lot of phone calls. And okay, by the way, that's one of the negative things. A lot of disturbance, a lot of nuisance. Whole day phone calls will keep coming. Your bosses everybody will keep calling you. So you don't get peace of mind. That's one thing which I didn't like, but up to you. Right. Okay, so let's see what are the questions. Ideally, how much time does it take to prepare for civil services? I would say 1 year should be 1 year of good preparation. Should be good to go. IPS was first preference, or allotted to you. IPS was my second preference. My first preference was IAS. But I loved the IPS as well. I left it, but that is, I mean, I would have probably left IAS or any the job as well. But for at least for a short period, for the first 7 8 years that I did serve, it was an excellent experience. Um, and as I said, it was my second preference. The year that I got in, my rank was 72. I think the cutoff for IAS was probably, or IPS, I think it was like IAS was 44 or something, if I'm not wrong. Okay, I'm 24. Am I too old? No, you're not too old. I'm actually you're quite young for that, so that's fine. Uh, how do you manage fear failure? And this is a good question. It's 6 o'clock, so I don't have too much time. So maybe I'll make a separate video. By the way, it's not just you. Even I have that fear. Everybody has that fear. So I think this is an important question from Shubham. So I will address it separately. Right? Okay, guys. So I'm sorry. There are a lot of questions. I don't think I did justice to all of them. What I'll do is okay. One last question: who should choose IPS? Um, if you like getting stuff done, right? Um, if you have moral courage and if you can do difficult, IPS is a challenging job. I will tell you one thing: it's very challenging job, right? If you are up for a challenge, and if you don't mind the hierarchy, and if you can say no, and sometimes you have to say no and fight with your own bosses, your own DIG, IG, DGP, you'll have a fight with them. If you can do that, then I think IPS is a good job. Right? Okay, so we'll just wrap it up here. So first of all, thanks everyone for joining. I hope I was able to answer some of the questions. Whatever you could not, please put in the comments the video when it's completed. Put the comments at the bottom of the page, and I will try to upload a few videos over the next few days. If I forget, please remind me. So good luck, and we'll stay in touch. Thanks for joining. Thank you. Bye. Take care.